The sound of military boots echoed through Hangar 7 like thunder. Lieutenant Brian Callahan pointed at the homeless man near the helicopter bay, his face twisted in disgust. "Security! How did this bum get past the gate? This is a military installation, not a shelter." The man in tattered clothes stood frozen, his weathered hands trembling slightly. Grease stains covered his jacket. Salt-crusted beard hid most of his face. Callahan stepped closer, voice dripping with contempt. "You served? Sure you did. And I'm an astronaut. Look at you, you're a disgrace to the uniform." Around them, mechanics stopped working. Sergeants glanced nervously. The afternoon sun cut through the hangar windows in golden strips, illuminating the oil-stained concrete floor. Callahan grabbed a mop from against the wall and shoved it toward the homeless man. "I don't care what you used to be. Right now you're trespassing. You want to be useful? Grab that mop. Clean the hangar floor before the Admiral gets here. Move." The man took the mop without a word. His blue-gray eyes never blinked. Then, from somewhere outside, the unmistakable sound of helicopter rotors began to grow louder. Urgent, unscheduled, coming in fast. Before we continue this story, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Leave a comment below telling us your city or country. And if stories like this about courage, sacrifice, and second chances touch your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us share more incredible true stories that honor the forgotten heroes among us. Now let's continue. 6 hours earlier, Marcus Sullivan woke under Pier 39 to the smell of rotting seaweed and diesel fuel. The space between the shipping containers had been his home for 4 years now. Early September heat already baking the concrete. He rolled up his sleeping bag with military precision, muscle memory from 2 decades of service never quite fading. Inside his backpack, 3 items: a broken military radio he tried fixing every night, a plastified photo of 5 men in combat gear, and a water bottle he'd refill at public fountains. The photo was creased down the middle. 3 of those faces were dead, because of coordinates he'd given them, because of a call he'd made. The coordinates were tattooed on his right forearm now, faded blue ink, spelling out his guilt. 33 degrees, 18 minutes north, 44 degrees, 24 minutes east, Helmand Province. The day Reaper died and Marcus Sullivan started living on the streets. He climbed out from his shelter and walked toward the chain-link fence that separated the civilian pier from Naval Base North Island. He did this most afternoons, stood outside the fence and listened. The sound of helicopters taking off was the only thing that quieted the screaming in his head. The Seahawks, MH-60S models. He knew every bolt, every system, every protocol. He'd coordinated extraction missions from cockpits just like those, pulled pilots from burning wreckage in Fallujah, guided entire squadrons through sandstorms in Kandahar. They'd called him Reaper because death couldn't catch the men he protected. Until it did. Until he sent 3 of his own brothers into an ambush he should have seen coming. A delivery truck was backing up to the base entrance, gate wide open for the load. Marcus wasn't paying attention. His eyes were locked on a Seahawk lifting off in the distance. The sound pulled him forward. 1 step, then another. He crossed through the gate without realizing it. By the time he snapped back to awareness, he was standing inside Hangar 7. The smell of aviation fuel hit him like a drug. For a moment, just a moment, he wasn't homeless. He was Commander Sullivan. Call sign Reaper. The best combat search and rescue coordinator the Navy had ever produced. "Hey!" The shout shattered the illusion. Lieutenant Callahan was striding toward him, face red with fury. Behind him, 4 other personnel turned to look. A female sergeant holding a wrench, a young corporal in security uniform, a communications officer with a tablet, a pilot in a flight suit, all of them staring at the homeless man who'd somehow wandered onto their base. Callahan stopped 3 feet away, close enough that Marcus could smell his cologne. Expensive, the kind officers wore when they wanted to impress superiors. "You have 10 seconds to explain what you're doing here before I have you arrested." Marcus opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The words were stuck somewhere behind 4 years of shame and silence. He tried to back away. His left leg, the one with shrapnel still lodged near the knee, buckled slightly. Callahan's eyes tracked the limp with predatory focus. "You served?" Sure you did. And I'm an astronaut. Look at you. You're a disgrace to the uniform. The female sergeant, Chen, according to her name tape, shifted uncomfortably. The corporal by the door wouldn't meet Marcus's eyes. Callahan turned to them. How does this happen? We've got an admiral coming for inspection in 30 minutes, and there's a vagrant in my hangar. Marcus found his voice, rough from disuse and cheap alcohol. I'm sorry, I heard the helicopters. I didn't mean to. Stop talking and start working, Callahan cut him off. He grabbed a mop leaning against a tool cabinet and thrust it at Marcus. I've seen 100 guys like you. All excuses, no discipline. That's why you're out here and we're in here. You want to avoid arrest? Clean this floor, make yourself useful for once in your pathetic life. The mop handle felt foreign in Marcus's hands. He'd held sniper rifles and rappelling ropes and the controls of multi-million-dollar rescue operations. Now he was holding a mop. The symbolism wasn't lost on him. Maybe Callahan was right. Maybe this was all he deserved. He dipped the mop in the bucket and started cleaning. The concrete was already spotless, but he pushed the mop back and forth anyway. Around him, work resumed. Mechanics returned to their helicopters. The pilot walked toward the briefing room, but Sergeant Chen kept glancing over. Something in her expression looked like recognition, or maybe pity. Marcus couldn't tell anymore. Callahan wasn't finished. He paced nearby, performing for his audience. You think I'm being harsh? The real world doesn't give participation medals. You had your chance. You blew it. Now move faster. The Admiral will be here soon and I won't have a bum embarrassing this base. Each word landed like a punch. Marcus kept mopping, kept his head down. The photo in his backpack felt like it was burning through the fabric. His team, his brothers. They died with honor. He was dying with a mop. This felt right. This felt like the justice he deserved. What Marcus didn't know was that 300 miles offshore, a training exercise was going catastrophically wrong. 3 naval pilots were in the Pacific Ocean, their aircraft destroyed in a collision during a formation drill, storm systems moving in fast, waves reaching 15 feet. And the only person who had ever successfully coordinated a rescue operation in conditions that severe was a homeless veteran everyone had already written off. 20 minutes passed. Marcus cleaned the same section of floor 3 times. His back ached, his leg throbbed, but the rhythm was almost meditative. Push, pull, push, pull. Callahan had moved to the other side of the hangar, barking orders at junior officers about inspection readiness. The communications officer, Lieutenant Winters, was on her radio coordinating the Admiral's arrival. The Corporal Foster stood by the entrance looking uncomfortable. He kept stealing glances at Marcus. Finally he walked over, kept his voice low. Hey man, you really serve? Marcus nodded without looking up. Where? Iraq. Afghanistan. 22 years. Foster's jaw tightened. I did 8 months in Ramadi, 2nd Battalion. I'm sorry about all this. Callahan's trying to make rank. He's always like this. He pulled a protein bar from his pocket and set it on a nearby crate. For later, when you leave. And listen, there's a VA center on 5th Street. They can help with... I know where it is, Marcus said quietly. He'd been on their waiting list for psychiatric care for 8 months before he stopped calling. Before he accepted that the system didn't want to fix him, it wanted him to disappear. Foster nodded and walked back to his post. The protein bar sat on the crate. Marcus didn't take it. He didn't deserve protein bars. Sergeant Chen approached next, wiping grease from her hands with a red rag. She crouched down to Marcus's level, pretending to inspect a toolbox nearby. I saw the tattoo on your arm, she said softly. Those coordinates. I've seen coordinates like that before, on operators. On people who lost someone. Marcus's hand instinctively moved to cover the tattoo, but it was too late. Chen's eyes were sad, but not pitying. My dad was Navy, SEAL Team 3. He came back from Sadr City different. Took him years to talk about it. I just want you to know, not everyone here thinks like Callahan. She stood and walked away before Marcus could respond. The radio on Winters's hip crackled to life. Static, then a voice urgent and clipped. North Island Base, this is Seahawk 27. We have an emergency situation. 3 pilots down in the Pacific. Coordinates 3321 north, 12045 west. Weather deteriorating rapidly. Requesting immediate CSR coordination. Repeat, requesting immediate CSR coordination. We need command authorization and a coordinator experienced in storm extractions. Over. Winters grabbed the radio. 2-7, this is North Island. Copy your emergency. Stand by for command. She looked around frantically. Where's Commander Patterson? We need our CSR lead. The pilot in the flight suit, Torres, jogged over. Patterson's off base. Medical appointment in Los Angeles. Won't be back for 3 hours. 3 hours? Winters' voice climbed an octave. Those pilots don't have 3 hours. Storm's moving at 40 knots. We need someone now. She turned to Callahan. Sir, what do we do? Callahan's face had gone pale. Combat search and rescue coordination wasn't his specialty. It wasn't anyone's specialty on base right now except Patterson, and Patterson was 200 miles away. Contact regional command. See if they can send someone from... There's no time, Torres interrupted. By the time someone flies here from San Clemente or Coronado, those men are dead. We need to launch now. But without a coordinator who knows storm protocols... He didn't finish the sentence. They all knew what happened to rescue helicopters that went into 15-foot swells without proper coordination. They became additional casualties. Marcus had stopped mopping. The coordinates Winters had read out were burned into his brain. 3321 north, 12045 west. He could see the ocean map in his mind, the currents, the wind patterns this time of year, the approach vectors that would keep helicopters out of each other's rotor wash in high winds. He'd run 100 missions just like this. But that was when he was Commander Sullivan. That was when people trusted him, before Helmand Province, before he killed his own men with bad intelligence. The radio crackled again. North Island 2-7. Pilots are in the water. Losing visual contact due to wave height. We need guidance. Please advise. Winters looked at Torres. Torres looked at Callahan. Callahan looked at the floor. No one had an answer. Outside, the sun was dropping toward the horizon. Marcus knew what that meant. Darkness in 2 hours. Finding 3 men in the Pacific Ocean at night with storm conditions was nearly impossible. The window was closing. Lives were slipping away. Just like Helmand Province, just like his brothers. History repeating because he wasn't there to stop it. He wanted to speak, wanted to tell them he could do this. But the words were trapped behind walls of guilt and PTSD and 4 years of silence. What if he failed again? What if he gave them bad coordinates and more men died? The photo in his backpack burned hotter. 3 faces, 3 ghosts, 3 reasons to stay quiet and keep mopping. But then Corporal Foster said something that changed everything. He was looking at his phone, scrolling frantically. Wait, CSAR storm protocols. There was a guy, years ago, some legend who pulled off impossible rescues. He coordinated that mission in Helmand Province where... He stopped, looked up, looked directly at Marcus. Where 6 pilots got extracted in 48 hours during active combat, they said it was impossible. They said whoever coordinated it was some kind of tactical genius. Call sign Reaper. Whoever he was, he could do this. The hangar went quiet. Chen's wrench clattered to the floor. She stared at Marcus, at the tattoo on his arm, at the coordinates that matched the province Foster had just mentioned. Oh my God, she whispered. Winters pulled up something on her tablet, reading fast. Commander Marcus Sullivan, call sign Reaper, SEAL Team 5, decorated for extraordinary heroism in multiple combat rescue operations, coordinated the largest successful CSR mission in modern naval history, officially listed as retired in 2021 but no forwarding address, no contact information, no... She looked up, looked at Marcus. No way. Callahan laughed, sharp and bitter. You think this vagrant is Commander Sullivan? Are you people insane? Look at him. But Torres was walking slowly toward Marcus. He'd gone completely still. Helmand Province, he said quietly. 2013. I was flying support for that mission. We all thought Reaper was a ghost story. They never let us meet the coordinator. All we heard was his voice on the radio telling us impossible maneuvers that somehow worked. He saved my entire squadron. Torres stopped 3 feet away. The tattoo. Those coordinates. That's where the mission was. Marcus finally raised his head, met Torres's eyes. and for the first time in 4 years, he spoke not as a homeless man, but as the commander he used to be. The mission was compromised. 3 men were killed in the ambush that followed. Their blood is on my hands. The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. Then, from outside, the sound that would change everything. Helicopter rotors, multiple birds. Coming in fast and unscheduled, the radio exploded with static and a new voice deeper and edged with urgency. North Island Base, this is Captain Rodriguez, Seahawk lead. We just received emergency orders to support the CSR operation, but we can't launch without proper coordination. Weather's too severe. We've got 4 birds ready to go, but we're flying blind without... He paused. Then, almost desperately, someone told me Reaper was spotted near this base. I don't care if it's a rumor or a ghost story. If Commander Sullivan is anywhere within 100 miles, we need him. We need him now. 3 men are dying out there, and he's the only coordinator I trust in these conditions. Sergeant Chen was the first to move. She turned to Callahan, voice cold as ice. You made a Navy legend mop floors. 2 Seahawk helicopters touched down outside the hangar. Captain Rodriguez jumped out before the rotors stopped spinning, tablet in hand, flight helmet under his arm. He was mid-40s, Hispanic, with the weathered face of someone who'd seen combat. He strode into the hangar, scanning faces. Where's the CSR coordinator? We're burning daylight. Every head turned toward Marcus. Rodriguez followed their gaze, saw the homeless man holding a mop. His expression cycled through confusion, recognition, shock. He took 3 steps forward, then broke into a run. Reaper? Marcus? He stopped just short of grabbing him. Brother, we thought you were dead. Half the fleet thought you were dead. His voice cracked. Where the hell have you been? Marcus couldn't answer. His throat had closed. 4 years of walls were crumbling, and he didn't know if he could survive what was underneath. Rodriguez didn't wait for an answer. He gripped Marcus's shoulder. 3 pilots. Storm coming, 15-foot swells. Current pulling them toward shipping lanes. We've got 4 birds and 15 crew, but nobody who can coordinate this without getting us all killed. I need you, right now. Not the you that used to exist. The you that's standing here. Winters stepped forward. Sir, he's not active duty. He's not cleared for... I don't care. Rodriguez cut her off. Emergency protocols allow civilian expert consultation during life or death scenarios. Commander Sullivan is the definition of expert. He turned back to Marcus. I know you've been gone. I don't know why, and I won't ask, but those pilots have maybe 90 minutes before hypothermia or the storm kills them. You're the only person I know who can bring them home. Will you help us? Marcus looked down at the mop in his hands, then at the patch in his pocket, the one with dried blood on it. His brothers had died, but 3 more were dying right now. And maybe, just maybe, this was why he was still alive. Not to suffer, but to save. He dropped the mop. It clattered on the concrete. When he spoke, his voice was stronger. I need access to weather data, real-time satellite imagery, and direct comms with all 4 birds, and I need it 30 seconds ago. Rodriguez's face split into a grin. That's my Reaper. He spun toward the crew. Chen, get him a console in the command station. Torres, brief him on bird capabilities and crew experience levels. Winters, pull up everything. Weather, ocean currents, shipping traffic, everything. He grabbed Marcus's arm. Let's go save some lives, brother. Marcus followed Rodriguez toward the command station at the back of the hangar. Behind them, Callahan tried to reassert control. Now wait just a minute. I'm the ranking officer in this hangar, and I did not authorize... Corporal Foster stepped between Callahan and Marcus, stood at attention. With respect, sir, you're about to watch a master class in what actual military service looks like. Chen moved next to Foster, then Winters, then Torres, a wall of personnel blocking Callahan from interfering. The lieutenant's face turned purple, but he said nothing. He'd already lost, and everyone knew it. The command station was a semicircular desk covered in screens and radios. Chen pulled up satellite imagery on the main monitor. The Pacific Ocean, grey and churning, with 3 red dots marking last known positions of the downed pilots. Weather overlay showed the storm system moving northeast at 43 knots. Marcus stared at the screen, and everything else disappeared. The hangar, the people, the 4 years of homelessness. There was only the mission, Only the math. Only the lives that needed saving. He started issuing orders. Torres, your bird takes point. You've got the most experience with storm flying. Approach from the southwest to use the wind instead of fighting it. Chen, I need fuel calculations for extended loiter time. These pilots might be scattered. We might need to search. Rodriguez, your bird goes secondary with the rescue swimmer. Keep 500 meters behind Torres for safety margin. Birds 3 and 4 stay in ready reserve at 2,000 feet. If we lose a helicopter, we need immediate backup without repositioning. His fingers moved across the keyboard, pulling up current data. Water temperature is 64 degrees. Pilots have maybe 2 hours before severe hypothermia, but the storm will hit in 70 minutes. That's our window. Rodriguez strapped on his helmet. Command is yours, Reaper. We launch in 3 minutes. He ran toward his helicopter. The other pilots followed. The hangar erupted in coordinated chaos. Mechanics doing final checks. Crew chiefs loading rescue equipment. But Marcus didn't see any of it. His eyes were locked on the screen, on the coordinates, on the mission that would either redeem him or destroy him completely. At that exact moment, 180 miles offshore, Navy pilot Lieutenant Aaron Mitchell was fighting to stay conscious. His shoulder was dislocated from the ejection. His flight suit was shredded. Waves kept slamming him underwater. He'd lost visual contact with the other 2 pilots 15 minutes ago. The life raft had deployed but torn on debris. He was holding onto a piece of floating wreckage and trying to remember his daughter's face, trying to remember why he needed to survive. The sky was darkening, the storm was coming, and he knew, with absolute certainty, that he was about to die alone in the Pacific Ocean. Then he heard it. Faint at first, growing louder. Helicopter rotors cutting through wind and wave crash. A voice on his emergency radio, calm, controlled. The voice of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Lieutenant Mitchell, this is North Island CSR. Call sign Reaper. I've got your position. Help is 60 seconds out. Stay with me. Don't you quit. Do you copy? Mitchell keyed his radio with numb fingers. Copy, Reaper. Still here, barely. Barely is enough, the voice said. I've pulled men from worse. Trust me, and follow my instructions exactly. Back in the hangar, Marcus had direct comms with all 4 helicopters and all 3 pilots. His brain was processing dozens of variables simultaneously. Wind speed, rotor wash interference, fuel consumption, pilot fatigue, ocean currents. He directed Torres's helicopter to Mitchell's position with corrections every 15 seconds. Torres, adjust heading 045. Wind is pushing you east. Compensate now. On another channel. Mitchell, flare deployment when you see the bird. Bright orange. Make yourself visible. The sun's dropping and we can't afford to lose you in the shadows. Torres's voice crackled back. Visual contact. I see the flare. Moving into position. Steady, Marcus said. Waves are 15 feet. Time your descent between swells. You drop too early. Rotor wash will push him under. He watched the satellite feed. Watched the helicopter icon merge with Mitchell's position. Now, Torres. Drop your rescue swimmer now. There was a splash. The rescue swimmer, Petty Officer Drake, hit the water and swam toward Mitchell with powerful strokes. 40 seconds later, I've got him, he's conscious, pulling him to the basket. 1 down, 2 to go, and the storm was 30 minutes out. Marcus switched channels. Rodriguez, I'm sending you coordinates for Pilot 2, Lieutenant Sarah Grant. Last known position indicates she drifted northeast. Current is stronger there. You'll need to search a wider radius. He pulled up drift calculations based on ocean models. Numbers flooded his screen. He filtered through them with the speed of someone who'd done this so many times, it was muscle memory. Coordinates 3325 north, 12048 west. Begin search pattern Delta. Fly low, use thermal imaging. She might be hypothermic already. Rodriguez acknowledged and banked his Seahawk toward the new coordinates. In the hangar, Winters was monitoring fuel levels. Chen was coordinating with medical teams back at base. Foster was recording everything for the post-mission report, and Callahan stood alone in the corner, watching the man he'd humiliated orchestrate a mission that would be studied in naval academies for years. 15 minutes passed. Rodriguez's helicopter circled the search area. Thermal cameras scanned the water. Nothing. Marcus felt the familiar cold dread creeping into his chest. This was Helmand Province again. This was the moment when everything went wrong, when his calculations failed and people died. He fought the panic, forced himself to breathe. Rodriguez, expand search radius by 200 meters. She might have drifted faster than the model predicted. Copy. Expanding search. Another 5 minutes. The storm was 15 minutes out now. They were running out of time. Marcus stared at the screen, at the currents, at the wind data. Something was wrong with his calculations. Some variable he'd missed. Then he saw it. A shipping lane. Automated cargo ships had passed through this area 6 hours ago. Their wake would have created secondary currents. He recalculated. Rodriguez, new coordinates, 3327 north, 12051 west. She drifted farther east than expected. Rodriguez's helicopter banked hard. 30 seconds later, I've got something. Thermal hit. Moving to investigate. A pause that felt like an eternity. Then, it's her. She's alive. Deploying rescue swimmer. 2 down, 1 to go. And the storm arrived. Rain began hammering the helicopters. Wind gusts hit 40 knots. Visibility dropped to near zero. The third pilot, Lieutenant Commander James Park, was still missing. His last radio transmission had been 23 minutes ago, garbled and weak. Marcus pulled up Park's service record. 51 years old, 28 years of service, veteran of 3 wars. And now probably dead in the Pacific Ocean because Marcus wasn't fast enough. He couldn't let it happen. Not again. Not ever again. All birds, this is Reaper. Weather is critical. I'm calling birds 3 and 4 into the search. Park's last transmission suggests equipment failure. He might not have a functioning beacon. We're going to have to find him the old way. He switched to the reserve helicopters. Birds 3 and 4. Grid search pattern starting at coordinates 3318 north, 12042 west. Stay in constant communication. If anyone loses visibility, you climb immediately. No heroes. We don't add to the body count. The 4 helicopters spread out across the ocean. Rain pounded their windshields. Lightning flashed in the distance. This was the edge of madness, the point where most coordinators would call off the search to avoid losing more lives. But Marcus had never been most coordinators. He studied the data with an intensity that made his vision blur. Park was a veteran. He'd survived decades of service. He wouldn't just give up. He'd try to maximize his survival chances, which meant birds 3 and 4, adjust search northwest. Experienced pilot would try to swim against the current to stay in his last known position. He's fighting the drift. Look for someone actively moving. Bird 4's pilot responded. Copy, Reaper. Adjusting course, but visibility is less than half a mile. This is... Static cut him off. Bird 4, say again, you're breaking up. More static. Then, I see something. 30 meters ahead. Looks like... Yes, it's Park. He's waving. He's conscious. The hangar erupted in cheers. Chen hugged Winters. Foster pumped his fist. Even Callahan looked relieved, though he tried to hide it. Marcus allowed himself one deep breath. Then, Bird 4, you're closest but you're low on fuel. Can you make the extraction and get back to base? Negative, Reaper. I'll have to refuel on the carrier Jefferson. That's 30 minutes southeast. Do it. Get Park out of the water. Rodriguez and Torres, you're clear to return to base with Mitchell and Grant. Birds 3 and 4 will take Park to the carrier. Marcus paused. All pilots. Exceptional work. You just saved 3 lives in conditions that should have killed us all. Come home safe. As the helicopters turned toward their destinations, Marcus slumped in his chair. The adrenaline was fading. 4 years of exhaustion hit him all at once. His hands were shaking, his leg throbbed. The voices in his head were coming back. But for the first time since Helmand Province, they were quieter. 3 men were alive. 3 families wouldn't get the worst phone call of their lives. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't completely broken. Rodriguez's voice came through the radio one more time. Reaper, this is Rodriguez. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You haven't lost a single step. Welcome back, brother. Welcome back. Marcus closed his eyes. When he opened them, the entire hangar was staring at him. The mechanics, the officers, the crew. And slowly, one by one, they began to clap. It started with Chen, then Foster, then Winters and Torres. Within seconds, the entire hangar was applauding. Some were crying. Foster came to attention and saluted. Marcus tried to stand, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. He was still in homeless clothes, still smelled like the streets, still looked like a vagrant. But for the first time in 4 years, he felt like Commander Sullivan again. The helicopters landed 20 minutes later. Rodriguez jumped out and ran straight to Marcus. He pulled him into a crushing hug, ignoring the dirt and smell. "You saved their lives. You saved my crew. You—" He couldn't finish. He just held on. Torres was next. He shook Marcus's hand with both of his own, tears streaming down his face. "My cousin was one of the pilots you saved in Helmand Province, Tim Rodriguez. He talks about you like you're a guardian angel. When I tell him I just flew a mission you coordinated, he's not going to believe me." Chen approached quietly. "I'm sorry," she said, "for not recognizing who you were, for letting him treat you like that." She gestured toward Callahan, who was still standing in the corner. Marcus shook his head. "You didn't know. I didn't want anyone to know." "Why?" Her voice was soft. "Why hide? You're a legend." "Because legends don't get their men killed," Marcus said. "Legends don't fail. I failed, and I didn't deserve to be remembered as anything but a failure." Torres stepped forward. "You didn't fail, brother. I read the after-action report from Helmand Province. The ambush was based on enemy intelligence that nobody could have predicted. You saved 6 pilots that day. The 3 men you lost died in combat doing their jobs. They knew the risks. They wouldn't want you living like this." Marcus wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that maybe he wasn't solely responsible for those deaths. But 4 years of guilt didn't disappear in one afternoon. The voices in his head wouldn't be silenced that easily. Still, something had shifted. Some small crack in the wall of shame he'd built around himself. The sound of approaching vehicles interrupted the moment. 3 black SUVs pulled up to the hangar. Officers poured out. And then a man in a crisp uniform with stars on his collar, Admiral Richard Kensington, the man Callahan had been so desperate to impress. The Admiral strode into the hangar with the confidence of someone who'd commanded thousands of personnel. His eyes swept the scene, landing on Marcus. "Someone tell me what the hell just happened." "I get a report that a homeless veteran coordinated the most complex rescue operation we've had in a decade, and that Lieutenant Callahan made that same veteran mop floors." Callahan stepped forward, face pale. "Sir, I can explain. I didn't know who he was. I was ensuring base security and—" "At ease, Lieutenant." The Admiral's voice could have frozen water. "Actually, no. Remain standing. You're going to want to hear this." He turned to Rodriguez. "Captain, give me the short version." Rodriguez snapped to attention. "Sir, 3 pilots went down during training. Storm conditions made rescue nearly impossible. Commander Patterson was off base. We had no qualified CSR coordinator available. Then we discovered Commander Marcus Sullivan, callsign Reaper, was on base. Despite being retired and despite recent circumstances, Commander Sullivan agreed to coordinate the mission. All 3 pilots extracted successfully, 0 casualties. It's the finest piece of coordination I've witnessed in my 26 years of service." The Admiral processed this. Then he walked directly to Marcus. Up close, his expression was unreadable. "Commander Sullivan, I've heard your name. Read your file. Thought you were dead. Lot of people thought you were dead." He extended his hand. Marcus shook it, feeling absurdly self-conscious about the dirt under his fingernails. "You saved 3 of my pilots today. I don't care what you look like or where you've been. You have my gratitude and the gratitude of this entire base." He turned back to Callahan. "You, however, humiliated a decorated veteran. You violated about 6 different regulations regarding treatment of former service members. You prioritized optics over humanity, and you did it all while trying to impress me during an inspection." The Admiral's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire hangar. "I'm not impressed, Lieutenant. I'm disgusted. You're hereby suspended pending a formal investigation. Report to my office at 0800 tomorrow for disciplinary proceedings. Dismissed." Callahan opened his mouth, closed it. His career was over, and everyone knew it. He walked out of the hangar without another word. 3 weeks later, he'd be demoted to ensign and transferred to a logistics posting in the Nevada desert. He'd never work with personnel again. The Admiral turned back to Marcus. "Commander Sullivan, walk with me." It wasn't a request. Marcus followed him outside. The sun had fully set now. Stars were appearing overhead. The Admiral stopped by one of the helicopters, running his hand along the fuselage. "I'm going to be direct. The Navy failed you. The VA failed you. The system that should have supported you after your service abandoned you. I can't undo that. But I can offer you a path forward." He faced Marcus. "We need instructors. People who can teach the next generation of coordinators. You wouldn't be flying missions. You'd be teaching others how to do what you did today. We'd provide full medical support, PTSD treatment with the best specialists we have, housing on base, a salary, a purpose." He paused. "I'm not asking you to forget what happened in Helmand Province. I'm asking you to honor those men by making sure their sacrifice teaches others how to save lives." Marcus looked up at the stars. At the same stars he'd looked at from under the pier for 4 years, the Admiral was offering him everything he'd lost. A purpose, a place, a chance to matter again. But could he trust himself? Could he risk being responsible for more lives? "What if I fail again?" he asked quietly. "Then you fail," the Admiral said simply. "That's part of service. We train for success, but we accept that sometimes, despite our best efforts, we lose people. You didn't murder those men, Commander. You coordinated a mission in an active war zone, and the enemy got lucky. That's combat. That's the job." He put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You've been punishing yourself for 4 years. Don't you think that's enough?" Marcus thought about the photo in his backpack, about the 3 faces that haunted every nightmare, about the coordinates tattooed on his arm. Maybe the Admiral was right. Maybe the best way to honor the dead wasn't to join them in obscurity. Maybe it was to make sure their deaths meant something, to teach others so fewer families received those terrible phone calls. He looked at the Admiral. "I'll need time, to clean up, to get treatment, to figure out if I can do this." "Take all the time you need," the Admiral said. "The offer stands indefinitely. When you're ready, we'll be here." He handed Marcus a card with a phone number. "Call me, anytime, day or night. We take care of our own. Even when we do a terrible job of it initially, we come back for our people." Over the next 3 months, Marcus slowly rebuilt his life. The Admiral arranged for immediate placement in a PTSD treatment program specifically designed for combat veterans. It wasn't easy. There were days Marcus wanted to run back to the pier, days when the guilt was so overwhelming he couldn't get out of bed. But the program connected him with other veterans who understood, who'd lost people, who carried the same weight. He learned that he wasn't uniquely broken. He learned that survival wasn't a betrayal of the dead. Most importantly, he learned that he could honor his fallen brothers by living well, not by dying slowly under a pier. Housing came next. A small apartment on the base, 1 bedroom, basic furniture, but it had a shower and a real bed and windows that looked out at the ocean. Marcus kept his belongings minimal. The photo of his team went on the bedside table. The patch with bloodstains was framed and hung on the wall. He never washed the blood off. That blood was part of the story, part of who he was. He wouldn't hide from it anymore. The work started slowly. At first, Marcus just sat in on classes, watched other instructors teach coordination protocols, relearned the systems that had updated during his 4 years away. Technology had changed, but the fundamentals remained the same. Math, weather, human psychology under stress. After 6 weeks, the head instructor asked if Marcus wanted to give a guest lecture on storm rescues. Marcus agreed, terrified. He stood in front of 40 young officers and told them about the mission that had brought him back, about Mitchell and Grant and Park, about decision-making under pressure, about accepting that you can't save everyone, but you fight like hell to save as many as possible. The students were captivated. They asked questions for 2 hours. Afterward, 3 of them approached Marcus privately. All 3 had family members who'd been saved by missions Marcus had coordinated years ago. They shook his hand, thanked him, told him their cousins and brothers and uncles were alive because of him. Marcus went back to his apartment that night and cried for the first time since Helmand Province. Not tears of shame, tears of release. By month 3, he was a full instructor, Commander Sullivan, call sign Reaper. The name stopped feeling like a curse and started feeling like a legacy. He taught advanced CSR coordination 2 days a week. He consulted on complex missions, and he started a support group for veterans struggling with transition back to civilian life. 15 people showed up to the first meeting. By month 6, it was 50. Marcus shared his story: the homelessness, the addiction to self-punishment, the feeling that death would be easier than living with guilt. And he told them that there was a path forward, that second chances were real, that they could honor the fallen by living with purpose. Now, 3 months after being found in Hangar 7 with a mop in his hands, Marcus stood in a classroom in front of a new group of students. Behind him on the wall was a photo of his team, all 5 of them in combat gear, smiling despite the hell they were living through. 3 of those men were dead. Marcus used to think that made him a failure. Now he understood it made him a survivor with a responsibility. He turned to the class and began his first lecture of the day. Every second counts, every decision matters, and no one is beyond saving. I'm proof of that. I spent 4 years living under a peer, convinced I deserved nothing but punishment for decisions I made in combat. I was wrong. Not about the pain. That's real. Not about the loss. That's permanent. But about my value. About whether I deserved a second chance. He gestured to the photo. These men died serving their country. They knew the risks, they accepted them. And they would be furious to know I spent 4 years destroying myself because I survived and they didn't. So I'm here now, teaching you what they taught me. How to bring people home. How to make decisions that save lives. And when you inevitably lose someone despite your best efforts, how to carry that weight without letting it destroy you. One student raised her hand. Commander, what do you do when the guilt gets too heavy? When you can't stop thinking about the people you didn't save? Marcus touched the patch on his uniform. The bloodstains were still visible if you looked closely. You remember them. You carry them. But you don't let them stop you from saving the next person. Guilt means you care. Guilt means you understand the weight of responsibility. That's good. That makes you a better coordinator. But guilt shouldn't paralyze you. It should motivate you. Every person you save is a tribute to the ones you lost. He smiled slightly. And on the really bad days, when the weight feels unbearable, you reach out. You talk to someone. You let people help you. That's not weakness. That's survival. That's how warriors stay warriors even after the war ends. The class continued for another hour. When it ended, students lined up to ask questions. Marcus answered each one patiently. He remembered being young and terrified and desperate to prove himself. He remembered thinking he had to be perfect. Years of experience had taught him that perfection was impossible. Excellence, however, was achievable, and excellence saved lives. That evening Marcus walked down to the pier, not the one where he'd slept for 4 years, a different one. This one had benches and street lamps and families taking photos of the sunset. He sat on a bench and looked out at the Pacific Ocean. Somewhere out there, Mitchell and Grant and Park were alive, flying missions, seeing their families, living lives they wouldn't have had if Marcus had stayed silent that day in the hangar. Rodriguez sent him updates occasionally. Mitchell's daughter had won a spelling bee. Grant had been promoted. Park was retiring next year and planned to teach high school history. Lives saved, futures preserved, because Marcus had chosen to speak up instead of staying silent. Because he'd accepted help instead of drowning in shame. Because he'd decided that honoring the dead meant living well, not dying slowly. The sun dropped below the horizon, painting the sky orange and purple. Marcus pulled out his phone and looked at the photo Rodriguez had sent him last week. It was all 3 rescued pilots standing together on the deck of a carrier, holding a banner that read, "Thank you, Reaper." Marcus saved the photo. He'd add it to the wall in his classroom. Another reminder that second chances were real, that no one was beyond saving, that redemption wasn't about forgetting the past, it was about using the past to build a better future. He stood and walked back toward the base, toward his apartment, toward the life he'd rebuilt from nothing. Behind him the ocean whispered against the shore, the same ocean that had almost claimed 3 lives, the same ocean that had witnessed Marcus's resurrection. He didn't look back. The past was part of him, but it didn't define him anymore. Commander Marcus Sullivan, callsign Reaper, had died under Pier 39 4 years ago, but today, on this evening, he was alive again, and tomorrow, he'd teach another class, save another life, honor another fallen brother by being the best version of himself he could manage. That was the mission now. And unlike Helmand Province, this was a mission that never ended. There would always be another student to teach, another veteran to help, another second chance to offer. Marcus was no longer a homeless man with a mop. He was an instructor, a survivor, a legend who'd fallen and climbed back up. And that, he finally understood, was the real heroism. Not the missions where everything went perfectly, but the one where you failed, broke, nearly died, and still found a way to stand back up and serve. That was the story worth telling. That was the legacy worth leaving. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that second chances are possible, that heroes can be found in the most unexpected places, please subscribe to our channel. And right now, on your screen, you'll see another incredible story waiting for you. Click it, watch it. And remember, every person you pass on the street has a story. Some of them might just be legendary. Thank you for watching.